Yo, what is up? It is your boy X, back with part 2 to What If Deku was Android 17. Last part ended up getting a lot of, oh my god. It got 225 likes in under 24 hours. That is insane, boys. Like, that is insane. If you guys want part 3 to come out, should I make this promise? If you guys want part 3 to come out within today, I need you guys to hit 100 likes. If you guys can hit 100 likes, I will drop part 3 today. But if you guys don't, then the like goal for the next video is 150 likes. And yeah, that being said, let's go ahead and get started into the recap. And then officially. You ready for this? Get started. So, on the last part, we had essentially left off with Deku and Todoroki basically meeting each other. We went over Deku's backstory with Dr. Ujiko basically experimenting on Deku, and Deku's parents basically suing the hospital for all of their money, and they basically ended up becoming one of the richest people in all of Japan. Now, afterwards, Deku would have went to the same school as Todoroki, meaning nothing with Bakugou happened, and in terms of him and Todoroki, they would have ended up training. Todoroki would have gotten over his little daddy issues, and Deku would have actually gotten over his weird feeling that he was different from everybody else because he was an android, I guess you could say. Now, this is when Deku would have just chalked it up to not everybody in this world is just normal nowadays, so it's not that crazy or far-fetched for him to be an android. So, we also basically left off with Deku taking the UA entrance exams, and he murked it. And they also went ahead and took the little quirk apprehension test with Deku and Todoroki getting first and second place, and Bakugou trying to step into them. Sadly, Bakugou did not have to do that at all. Now, in the last episode, I'd also asked you guys what name you guys would want for the sort of Kamehameha attack that Deku's going to have, and the one that I liked the most was Heavenly Cannon. And one more thing that I ended up liking for somebody else was, I believe it was the Emerald Cannon or some shit like that. Yeah, the Emerald Shot and Emerald Cannon. I'm definitely using Emerald Shot because that sounds fire. That sounds fire. Shout out to Ellis James and Torio Higgs. I believe that's how you say it. Sorry if I got your name wrong, but I believe that's how you say it. But that being said, let's go ahead and truly get back into the story. So, Deku and Todoroki would have basically just been chilling, texting back and forth, talking about how cool it was that they got into UA, and, just really chopping it up when they're like, alright, well, I'm going to pass out. And Todoroki's just like, yeah, man, for sure. Now, this one, they'll basically wake up the very next day and go to class. The day will basically be pretty boring and pretty average, with Deku and Todoroki just kind of chilling together, as Deku and Todoroki are just kind of vibing, to be honest. Like, there's nothing too crazy going on, Deku and Todoroki are just out here, they just chilling, for real. The entire day was just an average school day that everybody has, up until the final class, when suddenly out of nowhere, All Might busts in through the door saying, I am here! Coming in like a normal person, as everybody's just like, All Might, it's you! As All Might's just smiling, saying, yes. He's like, I'm going to be teaching you guys for your hero courses. Everybody's like, we're not going to get expelled if we get last place, right? As All Might's just like, no. We're not having any of that here. As everybody's like, whew. Now, this is when they would all basically proceed to just go off to the little thing where All Might had basically told them that they're going to get their hero costumes together, as Deku's costume would literally be Android 17's fit. He would look like Android 17 exactly, except if you could see from the thumbnail, he has that rip in his pants. That's non-existent. So that is essentially Deku's costume. You already know this man is drippy, so I mean, come on now. Anyways, what's it called? Deku and Todoroki would basically have the same costumes that they did in canon, with Todoroki not at all having that weird ice suit that he had in the original. He's gonna have the suit that he had afterwards, so the blue one that we all know and love, not the very suspect one with the ice and the red eye, because that was not it at all. I'm just gonna say that was not it at all. This is when they would essentially tell everybody that they're gonna be having heroes versus villains training, and basically combat training, as Deku and Todoroki would look at each other and smile, as Bakugou says that they're gonna be picking teams based on slots. It's going to be 2-on-2 battles, heroes versus villains. As All Might would proceed to explain how it's going to go down, and Deku and Todoroki would just basically be listening. It's when All Might would pick out the lot to say Todoroki. Endeavor. Shoto Todoroki, and would then proceed to say Izuku Midori, as he then says Bakugou, Katsuki Bakugou, and Ida something, because nobody cares about Ida. Now, this is when Deku and Todoroki would look at each other and then just begin to kind of like have sort of mischievous looks as they look towards Bakugou, and he's just like, huh, I'll take you guys both on, bring it on. As he's getting ready to basically fight up against both of them at the same time, thinking that he can take them. Ida and Bakugou will be up at the top while Ida's trying to tell him to make a plan, something to take them out, as Bakugou's like, we don't need a plan, just stay up here, Four Eyes, and protect the bomb or I'll kick your ass. As Deku and Todoroki are just at the bottom thinking, so who gets to take him out? As Deku says, you know what, I think I should teach him a lesson. As Todoroki just smiles and says, I'll take out the other kid. Now, this is when Todoroki would immediately walk in and freeze the entire building, causing Bakugou to stop sweating and his quirk being basically non-existent. This is when Deku and Todoroki would proceed to walk in there, and Deku would actually have a resistance towards ice because he is an android, and he, as much as he feels pain, it's very, very dumbed down. So like, let's say Bakugou was to shoot the entire like his sweat bomb thing that he has on his wrist, that would not do anything to Deku. Like, you need big power attacks if you want to hurt him. And let's just say that Todoroki's fire and ice are Todoroki's ice is absolute zero, and his fire is blue, cremation blue. No. Let's make it a little more interesting. Todoroki's fire is black. It's black and it burns. It's kind of like the Amaterasu type flames. That fire goes crazy. I'm just gonna say it. You can control the output and the intensity, so it doesn't kill people if it touches them, right? Now, that's that. Now, this is when Bakugou would decide that to hell with it, as he would proceed to just run down there, not really thinking straight. As he runs down and sees Deku and Todoroki just kind of walking up to them, as he then says, Deku, as Izuku's just like, oh, it's you. As Bakugou would proceed to rush in there and try to beat his ass, but before he could do that, Deku would speed blitz behind him and punch him into the wall, creating a crater and taking him into the very next room, as Deku would step through it and tell Todoroki to go get the bomb. Now, this is when Deku would walk in there and have a smile down his face, a little bit of an evil one, as he goes down to Bakugou and says, well, it looks like I get a chance to put you in your place, you dog. As Bakugou says, ugh, damn you, Deku, as he proceeds to basically try to use his explosions, but it's all in vain. Bakugou would proceed to be like, ugh, as he breaks his gauntlets and has some of that sweat that was still stored up, as he uses that sweat to create a large giant explosion at Deku. That Deku's just walking towards him, as Bakugou says, don't play with me, as he shoots a giant explosion at Deku, which Deku just keeps walking straight through it, as Bakugou thinks that he had taken out Deku with that attack, as Deku simply just walks past, as he then gets that little rip in the shorts that he got in the original that he has in the image, as Bakugou would be like, what are you? As Deku would be like, I'm your worst nightmare. As he then picks him up by his shirt, and then Bakugou says, I didn't think I'd have to use this, as he then activates full cowling, 15%, and tries to get into a battle with Deku, but Deku will not be playing any of these games. Deku will then point his hand at him as he then says, Emerald Shot, as he blasted at Bakugou, sending him flying into a wall and almost creating a crater, as Bakugou just bounces off of it and gets knocked out immediately. Almost instantly after that, over the little speakers, it would be told that the hero team has actually won. Deku and Todoroki would basically just be like, that was way too easy, as they would proceed to walk off, and the rest of the class would be like, these guys are monsters. Now, this is when Deku and Todoroki would proceed to get back, as Momo is even more impressed by Todoroki's finesse and his quirk, as all of the girls in 1A are just like, yes, dreamy. As Deku would basically just be chilling there, as all the girls are just like, wow, Deku, like, you're amazing, your quirk is awesome, as they're all praising him and telling him that he's the best, that, you know, they wish they were on a team with him, as Deku's just kind of being nice about it, you know, not trying to be a dick about shit, because, you know, he's not Bakugou, he's a nice guy. So, this is when Deku would basically be told that he's good to leave by All Might, as, you know, All Might's like, dude, you're kind of causing a distraction, as Deku would be like, I understand, as, you know, they're just chilling. Now, this is when Deku would essentially, what do we say? Oh, sorry if you guys heard that. It's because I'd be recording in the car because house is not exactly quiet. So if I was to record there, you'd probably hear a lot of yelling, a lot of, construction and stuff like that. So if you guys hear a little bit of background noise, it's just because my family's remodeling. So, just getting that out of the way. Now, back into the story. Deku would proceed to just leave that room and just kind of go off with Todoroki, as Todoroki was allowed to leave too. Now, they would both just kind of be chilling and just messing around, having a little bit of a sparring session outside. As Deku and Todoroki would proceed to just kind of, they'd be throwing the hands. And this is when, And this is when Deku and Todoroki would essentially just be, throwing hands. Now, this is when the end of the day would come around, and as soon as Deku was about to leave, he would actually not be looking at where he's going and end up bumping into a girl with bluish, purplish hair, you could say. Now, this is when Deku would look up as he sees a girl who is about the same height as him, as he says, I'm sorry about that. As she looks at him, and she has, what color? We all know who this is. This is Nejire, okay? Nejire looks at him, and she's like, she's just speechless. As Deku's like, sorry I bumped into you. As she begins to look at him and be like, it was no. As she then gets tongue tied, and Deku says, wow, I mean, you're beautiful. As hold on, guys, I'm gonna stop the recording. They're gonna start getting loud. You guys can hear them. Not gonna lie, guys, I lost my train of thought, and it was a little annoying. I had to delete about one. I actually tried to record this a little bit ago, but oh my god, these people are annoying. Anyways, what's it called? Now, back into the story. Deku would end up bumping into Nejire as Deku and Nejire begin to talk for a little bit. This is when she would ask him what year he's in, and Deku would tell her that, he's a first year. And she would say, oh, so you're a freshie. As Deku would begin to just chuckle as he looks at her and says, yeah, let me guess, you're a third year? As she says, yep, name's Nejire something, because I have no clue what her name is. As Deku looks at her and says, oh, the name's Izuku Midoriya. Nice to meet you. As he basically just begins to talk to her, and they begin to talk for a little bit as they walk off together. As Deku would proceed to tell her that, feels bad for bumping into her. As he begins to tell her that, for that, I guess he's going to have to, take her out to eat. As Nejire would be like, yes, let's. As Deku would proceed to just start chuckling as, she turns bright red, and Deku's just like, well, yeah, I guess we should go right now. As Deku and Nejire basically begin to go out to eat for a little bit. Now, Deku would proceed to talk to her for a little bit as she then asks him what his quirk is. Up till now, Nejire wouldn't have really known too much about Deku, since the only reason that she's on this date with him is because, man is pretty tall, pretty built, and, and he's very, very, very attractive. No homo. Pause. I got socks on. Anyways, this is when Deku would proceed to just basically have a good talk with Nejire. They begin to talk about how UA is treating them, and she begins to give him some tips about how to do things, and Deku would proceed to tell her that his quirk is called Android. His quirk basically essentially gives him all the capabilities of a robot, basically letting him shoot off energy, limitless energy, being able to fly, being able to be intelligent, and she would tell him that that's an amazing quirk, giving him super speed and super strength. And she would say that, wow, you're amazing. As Deku would just kind of chuckle as he then tells her what her quirk is, and she begins to tell him that her quirk is basically the power of flight. I believe that's what her quirk is, at least. Nejire, let's see what her quirk is called. Her quirk is called wave motion. Okay, wave motion. She would proceed to tell him what wave motion is and how it works. As Deku would look at her and just be like, wow, that quirk actually sounds awesome. So you can fly with it, right? As she begins to say, oh yeah, that's just one of the benefits that comes with the quirk. As Deku would tell her that she seems a little familiar. As he would ask, are you one of the big three? As she would say, oh yeah, I'm along with Mirio and Sun Eater. I don't know that guy's name. Emiko something, I don't know. But we all know who I'm talking about. Tamaki, I believe that's what his name is. Tamaki something. Anyways, that doesn't really matter. So this is when Deku would basically begin to talk to her for a little bit longer. When out of nowhere, he begins to tell her that, they better go somewhere else. Maybe she wants to continue this somewhere else. As she would say, definitely. As they would proceed to go to an arcade, just have a little bit of fun. Now, This is when Deku and Nejire would proceed to just have a lot of fun there. You know, they'd just be messing around as Nejire ends up falling for this man Deku slowly, and Deku's just kind of smiling, having a pretty good time, since this is the first time that he didn't feel like he was only being looked at as an object. Because most of the time, that's how he kind of feels. He feels like an object because not a lot of people treat him like a human. And after a little while, you know, I admit that the first, you know, getting food part, she was completely drooling, and afterwards, even during the arcade, she still was, but you know, she began to look at him more as like a person and not just some really how do I put this without sounding suspect, how do I do this, guys? Like, how do I do very good looking guy, right? Now this is when Deku and Nejire's date would essentially end. Deku would actually end up getting Nejire's number as she begins to smile and tell him that he better text her, as Deku smiles at her and tells her that of course he would. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, boys. At first, this entire series wasn't gonna have Deku having a ship. He was just gonna be, how do I put this? He was gonna be a pimp. Not really, but he would have more of a harem, I guess you could say. He was gonna have a harem. I guess I could do that on another thing where I can also make Deku look very good. Just probably none of them are going to be near Android 17 level since it's an Android. I mean, come on now, it's legit designed to be perfect. Now, this is when Deku would basically go to class the very next day, running into Nejire on purpose in the morning, telling her to meet him there. As Deku and Nejire would talk for a little bit as Todoroki walks up to him and says, "Hey Deku," as Deku would look at Todoroki and say, "Oh, hey, what's up, Shoto?" As he would be like, "So I see you got yourself a little new friend." As Deku would begin to just laugh a little bit as he says, "Oh yeah, name's Nejire. She's third year." As Todoroki would say, "Oh, we get in third years now." As Deku would begin to just chuckle as, you know, she would go dark red on the face. She's like, "Ah." Now this is when Nejire would be like, "I gotta get to class." And she basically runs away, and the rest of the day would carry on up until the end portion of it. This is when the students would be told about the USJ, and everybody would be like, "Oh, that's awesome. I'm totally down for the USJ." As everybody would be told that they're going to be having a little bit of rescue training today. As Todoroki and Deku would actually be extremely excited, as well as Bakugou getting the chance to, you know, show off his quirk. Now, this is when Deku, Todoroki, and the rest of them would actually be on the bus when they're actually heading to the USJ. And, you know, they're all talking about things as Suyu begins to mention who the strongest kid in the class is. As she says that in her opinion, it's either between Todoroki or Deku. As Todoroki then is like, "Oh, it's Deku." As everybody's like, "What?" And Todoroki's like, "Yeah, like we have a fighting record, and it's and he's like, "The record is 356-0." As they're like, "What?" And Deku is just sitting there like, he's just like, "What'd you tell them?" As Todoroki's like, "Come on, just keeping it real." As Deku and Todoroki just begin to just talk for a little bit longer. Now all of the girls on the bus would be all sitting very, very close to Deku, including Sue. Now Momo would actually be sitting next to Todoroki as he and her begin to talk for a little bit, you know, establishing that whole ship now. Now I'm going to go ahead and get into that now. So, in terms of the little Deku and getting, you know, a little bit of harassment from all the other girls in UA, he would essentially get to class and be like, "Ugh, why don't y'all leave me alone?" As Deku's like, "My heart belongs to Nejire. Come on now." I'll play too much. Nah, but for real though, Deku and them would actually end up arriving at the USJ. As once they arrive, Deku basically looks inside as he just begins to walk inside. Now, this is when the entire class would make it inside, and as soon as they're inside, doors would close, and afterwards, a purple portal would appear out of nowhere. This being Kurogiri. Now, as soon as Deku sees this, he says, "Is this part of the thing?" As Aizawa would say, "No, those are real villains. Get back." As Deku would be like, "Okay, you probably shouldn't have done that." Kicking it reference. As Deku would proceed to shoot an emerald shot right at Kurogiri's weak point, as Kurogiri gets blown away before he could teleport the students anywhere. This is when Aizawa would jump down to take on some of the heroes, and Todoroki, Deku, and Bakugou would just jump into action as soon as possible, with 13 saying, "Kids, stay back!" As all of them just bust into action, Bakugou activating 15% of full cowling and just going crazy, fighting back to back with Aizawa, you know, helping him take out a couple villains, making the entire process faster. And Deku and Todoroki would proceed to take out the remaining of all of the other villains, as in about a matter of a minute, Deku and Todoroki would have taken every other villain out, with Shigaraki and Kurogiri just kind of like, what is going on? As this is when Shota and Bakugou would finish with their little crowd of 30 people, as Deku and Todoroki would basically just be, just wiping their hands off of the dust they got from taking out all those villains, as they would proceed to basically walk up to Shigaraki, as Shigaraki says, "Nomu, kill them," as the Nomu begins to rush at Deku, as it begins to punch him and try to send him flying. It hits him straight in the face, but Deku would just not budge, as the Nomu would punch him straight in the face at full force, as Deku then says, "Is this it? Like, really?" As he then puts his hand on the Nomu's head and emerald shots it, blasting it straight to hell, killing the Nomu instantly. This one Shigaraki would be like, "No, that's impossible. That was designed to kill All Might. It has regeneration." As the Nomu would begin to regenerate its head and try to, just throw a bunch of attacks at Deku, as he simply stands there and tanks them all. All of the girls in class would be watching as they're like, "You can do it, Deku!" As Deku just begins to just tank all the blows, as Deku's like, "You have regeneration, I see." As he then grabs the Nomu by the leg and picks him up and throws him straight into the sky. As he then busts in an attack that nobody's ever seen. He then says, "Heavenly Cannon!" as he shoots a giant white beam at the Nomu, incinerating it immediately. Now, as soon as Shigaraki sees this, he's like, "I gotta get out of here." And this is when Shigaraki would basically teleport out of there with Kurogiri, with Deku essentially letting him get away, thinking that he's not really much of a threat. If he would have seen him as more of a threat, he probably would have instantly taken him out, but Deku would have not really been paying too much attention to Shigaraki, as he accidentally let him get away. Afterwards, Deku would be like, "Oh crap, sorry," as Aizawa would just be stunned, as well as 13, wondering what this kid is. He took attacks from that thing that looked about the size of All Might, as if it was nothing, and Bakugou, after seeing this, would be enraged, thinking, "Damn it, Deku, I'll catch up to you," as Todoroki's just sitting there thinking that he probably could have done the same, since he definitely could have. If he would have amped his fire to the highest degree and shot it straight at the Nomu, he also could have incinerated it with his black Amaterasu flames. Not really Amaterasu, it's just the color. Now, this is when Deku and Todoroki would proceed to just basically get hailed and praised for everything that they had done, with Momo telling Todoroki that he's amazing. And afterwards, this would actually go on the news, telling everybody that two kids actually ended up taking out like hundreds of villains, as it's all over the news that Todoroki and this kid named Deku Izuku Midoriya actually ended up taking out more heroes than Pro Hero Aizawa did in a matter of a minute. And also explaining that Deku actually ended up taking out a beast that people say that rivaled All Might in terms of strength. This is when Deku and Todoroki would basically be seen as, some very powerful people by everybody. As soon as it goes on the news, Nejire would text Deku telling him that he did what? He faced villains? As Deku would tell her that, "Oh yeah, like they were pretty weak." As Nejire is like, "You don't have to be you don't have to show off about it." As Deku's like, "No, I'm genuinely serious. Like, those guys were nothing." As Nejire would be like, "Are you really that strong?" As Deku would tell her that, he is. He could probably show her sometime. As Nejire is like, "Huh, I think you should." As Nejire and Deku would essentially take the week off from school to just hang out the entire time. Nejire during this time would have actually introduced Deku to Mirio, as well as Tamaki, I believe that's what his name is, or Sun Eater by his hero name. Now, Deku meeting Mirio would have actually been pretty cool, since Mirio looked at him and he was a very nice guy. He walked up to Deku and he was like, "Hey," as Deku was like, "What's up?" And they would have basically just, bonded as some pretty cool friends. Mirio would have actually gotten Deku's number, and Mirio and Deku would actually be boys now. Deku and Mirio would be pretty chill, chill together. As Nejire is pretty happy, and Tamaki, Deku kind of thought he was a little bit of a weirdo, but he didn't seem too bad, so he didn't really mind him. Now, Nejire would have basically warned him about their personalities and telling him, that they're going to be a little weird, with Deku saying no, they were actually pretty great. Now, this one, Deku and Nejire would basically just spend the entire week hanging out together. Some days hanging out with Mirio and Tamaki, as well as Todoroki hanging out with them, bringing Momo along, and Deku would have actually ended up going on a double date with Momo, as well as, Nejire. Am I going to go into the date? Find out in the next episode of Dragon Ball Z. Just kidding. Now, Deku and Nejire would have basically proceeded to go out on that date. It would be pretty easy, as Deku and Nejire would basically just be pulling up with Todoroki and his girl Momo and just kind of showing up. Now, this is when Momo seen Deku with a girl. She'd be surprised. She'd be like, you didn't seem like the guy who would actually, go for somebody and stick to her. As Deku sees Momo and he's like, oh, I see, Todoroki, so you weren't lying. As Todoroki would be like, you know it. Now, this is when Deku and Todoroki would proceed to basically carry out their little double date, I guess you could say. As they're both just having a good ass time. They were talking, they were laughing, they were having some, let's say that they went to a pizza place. They got some pizza, some wings. Comment down below what your favorite type of wings are. Mine is barbecue boneless, because, it's less messy. I really don't like to get too messy when I'm eating my wings. So just comment down below what you guys like and where your favorite pizza places. I kind of want to know. A little bit of a weird question, but, it gets you guys to comment, so you might as well. Now, this is when Deku and Nejire would proceed to just, have a little bit of a good time, as they would basically end the entire week. During that entire week, Deku and Todoroki didn't really use any of that time to train at all, since they would have thought that they were pretty much set. And, honestly, if they both went into the hero world now, they'd probably be unbeatable. But, I like my OP characters, so I'm going to make them even stronger. Anyways, so Deku and Todoroki would have essentially made it back to class, as Aizawa greets them all and tells them that they're going to be having the UA Sports Festival very soon, as Nejire would have actually told them about it. And Todoroki and Deku would just be excited looking at the prospect of, being in a tournament and, getting their name out there a little more than they already had. Now, that's when Nejire would tell Deku that he better win, and he would tell her the same, telling her that she should do her best and try to get first place. Nejire would get a little bit of a boost by this, and she would essentially try her hardest. Now, into the actual event. Deku would have been told to give out the speech, as Deku would have, he would have done so very, generously. He would have gotten up there, as he would be on the big screen, as all of the girls in the stage would be like, that girl scream that we all know and love. Why did I say all know and love? No. Anyways, that little girl scream, right? Like that, it's, da, 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 da. As it would all be like, Izuku. As Nejire seeing all of this would be like, getting jealous, thinking, damn it. And all of these girls are all over my mans. As Deku would have not really replied to it and just kind of smiled. As Deku would proceed to give the speech, and at the end of it, all of the guys would have just been thinking, what a dick. He's probably a prick. As all of the girls would have just been in the stands being like, we love you, Izuku. As Deku would proceed to get off the stage, and Monoma would tell Deku that he's just a stuck-up 1A class. He's in that stuck-up 1A class and thinks they're all that just because they took out villains. As Deku says, correction, they didn't take out villains. I did. With Todoroki, and Todoroki would budge in and say, I did too. As Bakugou would say, only the three of us were the only ones involved. As everybody would say, whatever, you guys are still stuck up. As Deku would then give them a sort of death stare, as they would back up immediately. And Deku would say, that's what I thought. Now, this is when Deku and Todoroki would essentially get ready to start the entirety of the UA Sports Festival. First things first, the race. As soon as the race would have started, Deku would have coated himself inside of a I'm not gonna spoil it yet. Deku would have immediately blasted off, flying as fast as he could and blitzing straight towards the finish line, with Todoroki being very close behind him and getting there second place. Bakugou would have gotten third, and that's basically all it is for that race, since Deku was not about to lose. Come on now, he has Dragon Ball speed. Like, come on now. Now, in terms of the cavalry battle, this would get a little funny. Now, obviously, we all know that it's going to be the boys. Todoroki and Deku are going to be on one team, as well as Momo and Uraraka. Momo, because Todoroki, he decided that she was going to be on the team. And every other girl in Class 1A and Class 1B would basically have played rock, paper, scissors to see, who would be on the team with them. Uraraka would have actually ended up winning, and she would be on the team with Deku, Todoroki, and Momo, giving her a free pass. Now, as soon as the cavalry battle would have started, Bakugou would have immediately tried to rush at Deku, trying to get the 1 million point headband, but Deku would simply have a circle barrier around them, as all of the other teams couldn't even get close to them. They couldn't crack the barrier at all. They couldn't budge it, and Deku would basically just stand there with his team for the entirety of the 5 minutes. Now, Deku's team would end up getting first place, obviously. And during the intermission, Deku would have actually gone up to see Nejire to see how she was doing. She would have made it to her own tournament bracket with her actually ended up getting second place, Mirio getting first, and Tamaki getting third. In terms of Deku, he would have told her that he's actually doing well, and he promises to win. As Nejire, she's just like, oh, you will now. And Nejire just basically kisses Deku. They make out a little bit before Deku's match, and he has a little bit of a good time. So come on now, he deserves it. Now, this is when Deku would proceed to basically walk up onto the stage to fight Shinso, since that's his first battle. Nothing's ever going to change in terms of that. And yeah, so Deku versus Shinso would immediately start. Also, guys, if you guys hear a little bit of background noise, the city bus just pulled up, so yeah, there's a little bit of noise. Anyways, Deku would have essentially walked up there, and as soon as Shinso started talking his shit, he would have just tried to brain control Deku, as Deku would have spoken back to the first thing that Shinso said, as Shinso was just thinking, got him. And this is when Deku would proceed to walk up to Shinso, and Shinso's like, walk off. And Deku just keeps walking forward, as Shinso says, walk off! And Deku's like, you think you mind controlled me, didn't you? He's like, I'm part android, you dumbass, as he punches Shinso straight into a crater. And Shinso gets knocked out immediately. This is when the next match gets announced. It's going to be Deku versus Katsuki Bakugou. Why is it not Todoroki? Because that's going to be the final match. Come on, I gotta treat y'all. Now, Deku versus Bakugou. Come on now, we all know how this is going to end. And I'm just going to go ahead and give Bakugou some PSD and, really bring him down to earth. As soon as the match starts, Bakugou would tell him that last time he got lucky since he had none of his sweat. And this time, he's going to obliterate him. He would jump in there and begin to, move around a lot around Deku, as Deku would proceed to just let Bakugou believe that he's going to beat him. Now, Deku would proceed to get into a fight with Bakugou that he's limiting himself to about 10% of his power. Deku would proceed to fight against Bakugou in a hand-to-hand combat spar, keeping up with him very well, but letting Bakugou land heavy blows on him and, acting like he's taking lots of damage. During the entire time, most of the girls in the stands would be like, no, don't hurt him! As Bakugou would be like, ugh, so annoying. As Deku would proceed to act like he's about to get beat, and this is when Bakugou would say, I got you right where I wanted you. As he says, die! And goes in with a howitzer impact. This is when Deku would proceed to smile, as he then absorbs the energy of the howitzer impact into his hand. And Deku then smiles as Bakugou falls onto the ground and looks up in horror as he sees Deku not looking like a person, but a god. Deku looks like a legit god. He is way too powerful, and he's wondering how the hell he got so strong. As Deku would proceed to walk up to Bakugou and kick his head into the floor, as all of the girls would be like, we love you, Deku! As Deku would have essentially knocked out Bakugou just like that. Now the next match would start, and before it gets started, Todoroki would go up to Deku telling him not to hold back, that he's going to be going all out and Deku should do the same, with Deku telling him that he wouldn't have it any other way. As soon as the match starts, Deku would rush in at Todoroki, as Todoroki creates a large barrier of ice that Deku proceeds to break straight through. Now, Todoroki would have actually left a little bit of a... I'm going to make Todoroki way more OP in this version. Todoroki would have left an ice clone that Deku proceeds to try to fight against, as Todoroki appears behind him and uses Amaterasu flames on him, as Deku has the flames burn up his clothes. Half of his clothes at least, revealing half of his body. His pants would have stayed on, but basically half of his shirt would have been torn off, and Deku would proceed to grab the rest of it and rip it off, showing, his 8-pack and showing his, his gains, and he's just showing his gains. Now, this is when Todoroki would proceed to basically just smile as he's just like, I can't believe you're doing this. As Todoroki would be like, you know what, let's make it even. As Todoroki would proceed to take his shirt off, and Deku and Todoroki would just smile as they get into a hand-to-hand combat battle. As Todoroki's on the losing end, but Deku's holding back, having his friend have a little bit of fun, since Todoroki at the end of the day knows he's gonna lose to Deku, as he has infinite energy. He has a limit on what Todoroki can do, but Deku, he's limitless. He's essentially limitless, basically. Come on now, infinite energy. This is when Deku would proceed to show Todoroki something that he has never seen before. Todoroki would shoot a giant iceberg at Deku, as Deku creates a weapon like the ones that Zamasu uses. He would create an energy weapon out of his hand. He would actually go to create a scythe as he cuts the ice in half, creating snow onto the ring, and snow begins to just fall everywhere as Deku would proceed to blitz straight in front of Todoroki and chop him on the back of the neck, knocking Todoroki out immediately, making Deku the winner of the entire sports festival. After this, Deku would basically take Todoroki to the nurse, as he wakes up a little later, and Deku's basically walking to get changed as Nejire busts in through the door saying, "What are you doing?" As Deku's like, "Oh, hey Nejire." He's like, "I won, did you see that?" And she's like, "Yeah, I saw how you were shirtless in front of all those girls." As Deku would proceed to just start laughing and saying, "Sorry," as she would say, "Sorry." She'd start giving him some attitude as Deku walks up to her and gives her the stare. I don't know how else to put it, boys, but you guys know there. I guess some of you guys know. Some of you guys may not be old enough, but you guys know that. If you guys get it, he would give her the stare. Like the eyes that we've been giving. And Deku would give her the stare as Nejire just becomes putty in his hands. Now this is when Deku would proceed to apologize for what he had done, and he'd basically proceed to make out with her. Now this is when Deku would go to lock the doors. Some goes down. Deku would proceed to have his fun in the middle of the UA thing. He would actually not end up reporting to get his medal because he was too busy clapping cheeks. You already know. Come on now. And that's where I'm going to be leaving it off, boys. If you guys want part 3, again, like I said, you guys are definitely going to be having to smash 100 likes. If you guys get that done, I'll be posting part 3 out today. In terms of American Jake Long's powers and Zether, those two are actually going to be out tomorrow. I'm going to be dropping like 30-minute parts each. So today I actually am having a little bit of a writer's block as well as writing the story. So in terms of those things, I'll probably be putting those both out tomorrow. And maybe if you guys smash the like button, I'll be putting Android today and Android tomorrow, most likely finishing the entire series. Yes, I know my what ifs are short, but I get to the point quickly and I don't make you guys wait a lot for my what ifs. So yeah, that being said, go ahead and drop a like on this video. Make sure to join the Discord server. It's down in the description down below. And make sure to subscribe, like, and leave a comment down below on what you thought. But with that being said, Zether out.